In this session, we will see how to install MongoDB on an EC2 instance, and then we will see how to install Compass tool on the Windows. That's the easiest part. And then we will see how to access the MongoDB remotely from your system. As usual, everything is available in courses.e-multiskills.com, and this is under the MongoDB database. So you will be able to see the details. This is lesson number 18. And this is the latest one. The other one will be launched soon over here. So what we are going to do is we have the EC2 console open in AWS. So we'll go to EC2 dashboard and we will create one EC2 instance. So that's the first part which we are going to do. So we'll go ahead and say launch instance. As usual, we are going to choose the Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8. Just select it. It's not going to take more than a couple of minutes. We'll say next configure instance details. Everything remains the default one. We are not going to change anything. The uh, security group, it remains there are two things which will be required. We wanted to access this particular virtual machine from the local system. That's, let's say in my case, it's my system. And there is another thing which we wanted to do is we wanted to configure, or we wanted to access one more port. So we will say custom TCP rule, and the port number is 27017. So we will say we wanted to access 27017 from my local system. In case it is you wanted to do it yourself, it will be your IP which will be detected for the demo system. Just say next, review and launch. And I have already RSA key, that's the EC2 key available. I say acknowledge and launch instance. It is going to take not more than 1 minute. So there is an instance which is already running. So what I will do is, okay, let me refresh. The older one I'm going to stop. Okay, this is the newer one which is coming. This I launched some times back. So I'll terminate this instance and I will say this, the new one which I have just created, I'll just name it as MongoDB. That's running on EC2. And that's okay. Mongo EC2. Save. So we should be able to see 2 by 2. Okay, so let's refresh this. It is still an initialization step. So what we will do is once it is launched, we need to remember that from your local system, you need to make sure that uh, you configure 2 ports from your local system so that you can connect it from your system. And then we will connect it with the public IP address. Uh, it's running, everything is fine. I'll go to this, click over here, and we'll take the, let me scroll it up. This is public DNS. I'll copy this. I'll go to MOBA, Xterm, new session, SSH, paste the public hostname over here, and EC2-user, advanced SSH, private key, and here is my key, and this should be launched now. Okay, this is done. The next step which you have to do is just go to the tutorial and you need to have the subscription to access it. The first thing which we are going to do is we are going to disable the SE Linux. So we will say sudo vi etc SE Linux config and just replace enforcing with disabled. Okay, this is done. The next step which we are going to do is we are going to install MongoDB 4.4, not the latest one. If you wanted to do the latest one, you can go to MongoDB website that will also be provided, and whatever versions which are supported over there, you can put it in the repository so that when you are using the install using the internet, it is going to fetch that from the repo. So now what we are going to do is we are going to copy and paste the content. So MongoDB-org 4.4. The name is MongoDB repository. Base URL is this one, which is going to fetch it for 64-bit Red Hat Linux, and just copy and paste, and that's more. This is done. Now just say sudo yum install MongoDB-org, and whatever is mentioned over there in that uh, repository, it is going to install it over here. Once it is done, if in case you wanted to install the individual components, you can just copy and paste and see whatever is required for you. You can install that component. So these are the different components which are being installed as of now. Okay, this is done. So what I'm going to do is, optionally, I can say sudo yum install -y MongoDB org, the version number I have given, org server I have given, org shell and version details I have given. I have given the tools, etc. So whatever you want, you can do it according to your requirement. So this is optionally being done. Some of the versions are lower, so it is going to degrade the version, whatever we have installed just now. But that's okay for the demo. Yes, this is done. Let's go to the next step and just check whether ulimit is unlimited or not. It should be unlimited because it is EC2 instance. That's fine. Now, what we are going to do is when you install MongoDB using yum, from the repository, it is going to create an operating system user as well, whose name is MongoD. So this is going to be your service account. Now, what we are going to do is, by default, this will not have the login access to the operating system because by default it is set to false, and we need to make it to shell. So what we will do is we will run this command and we will say sudo user mode hyphen hyphen shell. So what we are going to do, instead of the false, we are going to make it bash, and you should be able to log in. Now if you cross check, uh, from false it has been changed to bash. The next thing which we are going to do is in the sudoers file, if we wanted to provide the sudo access to the MongoD user. So what you have to do over here, you will paste the content MongoD, which is the operating system user. We are saying without prompting for the password, give it the sudo access. That's our requirement because we might need to require to restart the service of MongoDB. That's why it is required. And directory path, to use the default directory. So you have /usr/live/mongo. Here is your data directory, and log is going to be over here. So what we will do now is, since we have configured the sudoers for MongoD operating system user, now we will switch to that. So now you can see, now you are MongoDB operating system user, which is the service account. The next thing which we will do is, there are 5 commands which we are going to fire in one shot, and I'll explain what all these are. Just clear the screen and say systemctl start MongoDB. Then we are going to reload the daemon, checking the status of MongoDB, and then we are going to enable the MongoDB. So whenever the system reboots, it is going to restart the service automatically. So if you check the status, it is in the running status. That's what we wanted. Okay, we are done now from the installation purpose. The next step is we wanted to configure the remote access to MongoDB database. So by default, all these uh, open source databases, they do not have the remote access configured. So what we are going to do is we have stopped the MongoDB service so that we can change the configuration. And if you check the status, it is now in the stopped status, inactive. And the next step which we are going to do is in the configuration file, which is located by default over here in etc mongodb.conf. If you go there and just say sudo vi, and the first thing which you have to do is on the bind IP. In the bind IP section, you have to associate all the IP addresses that you wanted to attach to this MongoDB. So in our case, it is EC2 instance. So what we will do, we will pick up the private IP address and we will put it over here. So this is our private IP address and we will put it over here. Paste. Ah, okay, the spaces have relevant significance over here. The next thing which we will do is, let's go back to the tutorial again. And there is a section which is security. You have to uncomment that section. Let's go to the security, uncomment this, and you have to add one line over here. Just give one space and just mention authorization enabled. That means you won't be able to log in with authorization without the password. That means even if we try to log in, we will not be able to see the details. That's intentional. That cannot be treated as a problem. This is saved now. The configuration file is saved. The instance is in stopped status. So just if you check the status, it is in the inactive state. What we will do now is we are going to restart the MongoDB. Let's check the status. It is in the running status now. And now, if you try to access your MongoDB, where's the IP address? I need to take out the IP address because that is going to be used. There's the IP address. I'll mention it over here. And from the prompt operating system shell, what we will do is we will fire this command. So technically, we should be able to see the Mongo prompt. So what we are going to say is MongoDB colon, this is the IP address where this is running and this is the port number. We are able to see something, but that may be so if you just say help, you will be able to see the different commands which you can run. The simplest one is show DBS. You are not going to see anything because we have enabled the security. So you need to feed in the password. The another thing which we can do is instead of putting the IP address, you can do it 127.0.0.1. If you again say show DBS, you will not be able to see the details. So what we are going to do is the first thing which you need to do is Let's create an admin user. That's the bare minimum which you need to do. Go back to the prompt again and create the user. Let's connect to the, okay, the user is created. And now what you need to do is just say use admin. You are connected to the same prompt. We are switched to the admin user now, admin database now. And again, if I wanted to see the details related to the admin database, let's say, sorry, the admin user, should we be able to get the details? No, it requires the authentication. That's understood. If I say show users, can we see the details? Just wanted to show that because we had enabled the authentication method, that's why it is not allowing us. So the next thing which we have to do is log in with the username and the password. So we'll say Mongo hyphen hyphen port, authentication database admin, user is admin, and the password. Without this, you will not be able to see the details. It is prompting for the password, and the password which we set was the bare minimum. Okay, if we say show DBS, wow, we are able to connect now. The next thing which you need to do is, if you say show users, or to do that, just say this one, use admin. You are able to see the details over here now. So the next thing which you have to do is download the MongoDB Compass GUI tool. I have already installed it. It's just a software which you need to install on your Windows, and you will be able to access it remotely. So this is my MongoDB Compass. So I'll say just create new connection. And over here, I'll say fill in the connection fields individually. Host name, this is the host name where your MongoDB is running. So my MongoDB is running on this IP address. I'll take out the public IP address, mention the IP address over here, or the host name. Port is 270.117. Authentication method is username and the password. The username is admin, and the password was the basic one, and that was, and and uh, this is related to the uh, uh, it is having the password, see the secret password. So we will go ahead and say secret password is this one. Just save it and connect. You should be able to connect the MongoDB database. The only thing which we need to make sure that when you configure the EC2 instance, your security group should enable the access from port number 22 and 270.117 to whatever IP address you wanted to access. In my case, it was my local system, so I entered that, and now I'm able to connect. So you will be able to see there's the user, the storage details. You have two collections over here. In case you wanted to create new collection, you should be able to do it now. And you can see the config, the local, and the addition. The cluster details is also over here. So that's how we install MongoDB on EC2 instance, enable the remote access, and then install the compass, and then we access it. You can follow it very comfortably, just you have to blindly follow it and you will be able to do all of this. I hope this is going to help, and thank you.